Hey guys, I am Shomo, and how are you? I am doing good, and today I am going to show you a tutorial about Photon, how to use Photon Unity, Photon PUN 2 basically in Unity. So I have built a small game, and I have created two versions of this small game. So you can see there is a ball and two players. Similarly here also, so you can actually control these players. So I am playing in this player, and you can see the other player is like sitting down. Now if you click on this one, this player will be like moving around. Now basically this is like a soccer game, you can say. So see, the ball is moving in multiplayer, and if you want to take the transfer of ownership, see, you can take the transfer ownership. So you will learn that one too. But now if you want to take the ownership of this ball for this player, you cannot, until and unless this player will remove the ownership. So in this case, if I hit P again, so it will release the ownership. Now you can take the ownership for this ball. So you will learn that. And also, say suppose you are playing like a multiplayer shooting game, so you need to like you need to fire some bullets from your gun. So like this, you can like instantiate some bullet, and then you can move this bullet from this avatar. And for this case also, you can instantiate a bullet, and you can actually move this bullet. So you will learn these things, and also like how the general ideas, like how to create a lobby, how to create the room, how to join in the room, and how to start a game with some people in Photon. You will learn those things also. So let's get started. So now, as we are talking about Photon, so you need to know the Photon. So this is a like third party asset which is like hugely used in Unity. So this will give you a multiplayer asset. You can download it from the Unity asset store. And how can you like download it and use it in your project? So first of all, you need to create a account in Photon website. So this is basically my dashboard, and I have created an app in their website. So you can see one thing, like this is called app ID. So you need those app ID for your game. So how can you create that? So first of all, you need to search for Photon PUN 2, and basically, so I don't know like why this is not working. So it has changed to some other region. So what I did is I went to this photonengine.com, and then as I am already signed in, so that's why it is showing the dashboard. But in your case, if you do not have signed in already, so you need to sign in. You need to sign up an account in this website, and then you will be able to sign in, and it is free. You do not need to worry about. So after that, you will get this type of window. Obviously, there will be no tutorial, though there will be no uh, apps in your case. So for that, you need to create a new app, and then over here you need to specify the type. So for your purpose, you need to give a Photon PUN as the type. Okay, and then you need to give a name of your application, say like so Photon tutorial for my case. Okay, and then you may give a description, but it's totally up to you. It doesn't matter. And then you can create. So I already have this app ID, so I do not want to again create a new app for this purpose. And you can notice that there is 20 CCU. That means Photon, the free version of the Photon, can only support 20 participants or 20 players at the same time. So whenever you are building something using Photon, using the free Photon plugin, basically, just try to remember in your mind that the free version of Photon PUN will or can support 20 players at the same time. Okay, so I will copy this app ID and then I will create a new version. So yeah, select folder and then I give a name. Okay, so it has opened. So now, so I like this layout. So if you do not have this layout, you can change it to default, but I like this layout. So I have created this layout for me. So I can see the console and the game at the same time. So if you like this, you can like go to 2x3 layout and then you can like move this consoles or game at various places on your screen. Okay. Now, before moving on, so I need to download the Photon tutorial, the Photon plugin from the asset store. So go to asset store and search for Photon PUN 2. This is the free version and this is the plus version. You do not need to worry about this plus version. You can download this free version and go there and okay, update whatever, import, okay, import. Okay, great. So see, after successful installation of PUN 2, you can see this wizard, which is actually saying that app ID. So I need to give this app ID and then set up project. Good, done. So this is called the Photon server settings and it will be, so if you give this app ID, your app will be registered in their website. So basically your app is registered in their server so that you can like develop and then share your app with your friends and you can play your game. Okay, so this is a Photon server settings and how can in the later days, if you want to find out where the Photon server setting is, you can find it easily. So if you go to assets, then Photon, and then you need to expand this Photon Unity networking, then resources, and you will get this Photon server settings. Okay, good. Okay, so I am leaving this thing right now, whatever they are, but later in the case, we need to change something later on, but for now it is okay. Okay. Now, so our game is already set up. Is this the Unity? Oh yeah, okay. Now, so here is only one scene, the basic scene, you know. Now, whenever you play a multiplayer game, basically there are three parts. The first is the menu option, menu scene, obviously. So where you will choose like, do you want to start the game? Do you want to close the game, quit the game, resume the game, something like that. So we will build that one. Thereafter, whenever, if it is a multiplayer game, so the next step is connecting to a room, creating a lobby and then connecting to a room for other players to join. And whenever the other players will join, thereafter like at least minimum 2 players will be there, and whenever the other players will join, like 2 players minimum or 4 players, 5 players, whatever you want. And then if whenever adequate amount of players are there, then the game will start, right? So basically we will create 3 scenes. One, the menu scene, second one, the waiting room scene, and the third one, the actual game scene. So we will create that one right now. So I can change the name of this scene to menu. Yep. Then I can create a new scene, scene, menu, then waiting room, and then the game. So as there are three scenes, we first of all need to change our build settings. Okay, so there are no scenes right now. So for now, this menu scene will be the index 0 scene, because this will be the main scene. Whenever the game will start, this scene will be shown by the camera, by the monitor or whatever. Thereafter, from this scene, we need to go to the waiting room scene. So that's why this will be the index 1 scene, from menu to waiting room, and then at the end, the game scene. So remember this sequence: 0, 1, 2. Okay, great. And I will change this thing later. For now it is Mac OS X, because I am using a Mac. You can change it to Windows. If you are using Windows, then obviously it will be by default Windows. So I will show you like how to change it and how can you build the things. One thing I can show you over here right now, player settings. So is it in icon? No. Resolution, yeah. So by default it is saying full screen window. You do not need to use full screen window, so you can use it window, because whenever you are testing your game, so at that time you do not need to open it in a full screen window. So you can give it like how 1024 768 whatever you want, and you can let it in windowed. Okay, and is there any change needed? The settings, I don't think so. No, this is not an AR app. Okay, I think it's okay. Okay, great. So the game is there. Game is already set up. Okay. So now, so this is a multiplayer game, right? So how can you actually let Unity know that, okay, this is a multiplayer game? I need to turn on the internet. So there is nothing here which will actually say you that this is a multiplayer game. So we can create an empty game object and give it a name called network controller. So this is basically an empty game object, but we need to change it in a multiplayer version so that it can actually tell Unity engine that, okay, so this is a multiplayer game and I need to use the internet and I need to connect to a specific server with something, with some details. Okay, but before that, before going to the network controller, the details of the network controller, I need to change the main camera, because right now it is in skybox and I do not want the skybox thing. So I want a solid color and it will be like black. Okay, great. So now network controller. So I can add a component over here and basically that will be a script, network controller. Yep, create an add. Come on. Okay. So you can see that network controller is appeared over here, and I do not like to place the scripts wherever I want. So I want to create a new folder called scripts, and then I place this network controller in the scripts folder. Okay. So come on. Okay. Now I open it. Okay. So in this case, you can by default you can see like these are some namespaces like used by Unity all the time. But at the same time, you can see that this system collections and this system collection generic are like kind of off-white. So these two namespaces are not being used. So we do not need those things. So we can delete these two things. So we only need using Unity engine. And as we are using the Photon PUN networks, so we need to use the namespace photon.pun. Okay. So we are using the Photon PUN namespaces. Now, so by default, This is a mono behavior class which Unity is actually using to build their games, and we can use this class for like create scripts and then call scripts from another script. But whenever you are using Photon, we need to change this mono behavior to mono behavior PUN callbacks. Okay, because if you are using this class, then you can actually call the Photon functions available in the Photon assets, and then you can use the Photon for your own purpose. Okay, so in this script, basically we are actually telling Unity that this is a multiplayer game. Okay, so we do not need to use this update function. We can only use the start function. So I am just copy and pasting something over here. So this is called photon network.connection connect using settings. So the connect using settings is basically the Photon server settings. So you have already set up the Photon server using your app ID, right? So this is so you are actually telling the Photon network that I need to connect to the Photon network using these settings. Okay, this will do all the connection for you automatically. Now, if you want to use your own server and own mechanism to connect to the Photon, or using the Photon you want to connect to your own server, own clients, you can do that also. So for that, this is connect manually. You can go to the setup and connect a Photon tutorial, and then you can go through this like tutorial, small tutorial. So they are actually saying you need to give the server address, port number, and all those stuff to your this like server settings file. So in our case, it is like very simple. I try to make it very simple. So like you can use connect using settings and you are good to go. Now, the second thing is the Photon network is already connected. How can you know that it is already connected? So for that, I have written another code, which I am just copy and pasting over here. So this is on connected master. So on connected master is actually a Photon function, which we are actually overriding. Now, I hope the computer science students know what is overriding. Those people who don't know what is method overriding, so here is so method overriding in object oriented programming is a language feature that allows a subclass or child class to provide a specific implementation of a method that is already provided by one of its superclass or parent classes. Okay, so what is happening over here? So on connected master is already implemented in the Photon asset, so its basic functionalities are already there. What we are doing is we are calling the on-connected master, and we are using this on-connected master in our own fashion. Okay, so whenever the on-connected master to master is called, so the basic functionalities will be done by the Photon asset, and then this line of code and whatever piece of code you will write in this particular braces, that thing will be executed later on. So I am just doing what? I am just debugging the statement. We are connected to the Photon cloud region server. Okay. So this is basically the network controller. Done. So let it load. Okay. So you are basically connected to the Photon network. Your game is actually, oh, I need to save it. Okay. So your game is basically a network game now. Okay. Now you cannot see anything. Your game is connected, but you cannot actually see anything. So for that, up next, what you need to do? You actually need to create a UI system for the menu. Then you need to build the lobby and the room. Okay. So for that, at first I can create a UI system. So for that, I can go to menu. Can I use this one? Copy and paste? No. Okay, 3D object or 2D object, 3D object, UI, sorry. This will be a panel. What is happening? Yep. Okay, so I can give this as a name called menu. Okay, and everything is okay. And then inside this menu, I need something. Oh, by the way, how is it looking like? So this is the look of the menu. Okay, so the now title, I need to give a title. Text. I can choose the position 250 and then 600 and then 100. Okay, and then in the text folder I can, sorry, text file, I can say Photon tutorial, oops, tutorial, and I just leave it like this, right? Okay, so you can see, oh, this is very small, so I can create it like 50. Good. And this is black, I do not want black, I can white. Good. And then I can create 3 buttons, UI button and command D, command D. So this will be a loading button, this will be a start button, and this is a cancel button. Okay, I can select all these 3 because all of them have the same length, 50 and 70. Okay, and so by default this will be, okay, loading. Oh, so if I expand this text, this will be loading. And 30, start text, start 30, cancel 30. Okay. So for now, I can use this. Okay. So this, uh, just 1 minute, I need to check it. Good. So what I have done over here. So you can see like I have created a panel called menu, okay, for the UI. Then there is a text called Photon tutorial for your game name. And then there is a loading button. So whenever you hit the game, so this loading button will be there, and whenever you are successfully connected to the server, this loading button will be changed to the start button. So that's why by default start and cancel is like hidden, kind of like, or it is not activated. So whenever the loading, whenever you are actually connected to the server, so this loading button will be hidden, and then the start button will be activated. Okay, so this is the main idea. So that's why the start and cancel is deactivated for now. So basically this is a very simple UI system, and we are going to do the same UI system in the waiting room also. Okay, so it may take some time to build this UI system, but later on it will not take. Okay, so this is the canvas. Now we need to create the lobby and the room controller. So I can create a empty game object called lobby controller and an empty game object called room controller. Great. So just 1 minute, I need to check the scripts and lobby controller. Okay, so whenever you are successfully connected to the server, you actually need to create a lobby, and then you actually need to be inside a lobby, and then you need to create a room, right? So we need to create a lobby. Sorry, we need to be inside a lobby, and then you need to create a room. So we can go to the lobby controller and then create a lobby controller. Great. Create and add. Again, I need to, oops, put this inside the scripts folder. So this is the lobby controller. So again, we do not need to use this system collections, and here also we need to use the using photon.pun, and also you are going to use photon.realtime, because we are actually going to use the pun callbacks over here. So again, we need to change the mono behavior to mono behavior pun callbacks. Okay. And basically what I am going to do is copy and paste some code from my previous code to here, and I will describe it for you. So you can see that this script will actually seek the start button and the cancel button, okay, from in the UI window. So basically this is a private game object, but if you use serialized field on the top, you can actually see, let it load. Okay, so see, you can actually see it in the inspector window. So it seeks the start button, so you need to give the start button. Seeks the cancel button, you need to give the cancel button, and the room size. Okay, so as I told you earlier, that what will be the room size. So highest you can give 20 players for using the Photon free plugin. For now, I am just using 10 players. Okay, you can choose over 2 to you can choose any number from 2 to 20. Okay, great. So I have given these values in this inspector window. Now we are using this on connected to master function, and this is also overridden function. And over here, whenever the for this game is actually connected to the master server of Photon, then what is happening? Automatically syncs in. So this scene will be automatically synced throughout how many players you have in that particular lobby or the game, okay, or basically through the internet. And then start button dot set active true. So you can see this code will actually set active the start button. So by default, the start button is deactivated. So after connecting to the master, the start button will be activated. Okay. Now, so this delay start. So this is a public void delay start, and we need to assign this delay start to the start function, because after clicking the start function, we need to do something, right? So basically, this delay start will do that thing for us. So what will you do? Like go to start function, and then over here in on click window, you need to click this plus option, and then you need to give this lobby controller here, and in the no function, you can choose lobby controller and create the delay start. Okay. So by using this, you can actually tell the start function, start button, that whenever I click, whenever on click event is happening, you need to call this function and do whatever is written inside this delay start function. Similarly, for the cancel, you can go there and then lobby controller, no function, lobby controller, and then over here delay cancel, because delay cancel is written over here. Okay, so delay start is start whenever you are actually hitting the delay start button, it is deactivating again itself. So set active false, it will activate the cancel button. Okay, and then you can it is actually calling the join random room method of Photon, and then it is showing the debug.log statement. Now if you want to know what is join random room, join random room. Okay, so it is actually joins any available room of the currently used lobby. Okay, and fails if none is available. So even if it is saying join random room, so it will start to search for a room which is available in the current lobby. And how can you know the current lobby? This is basically using your app ID. So your app ID is unique for your game. So how many people is there who is using this app ID? It will search. This join random room method will actually try to search that whether any room is available for that particular app ID. If not, then it will be failed, right? Join random room, where it is join random room. Yeah, so and fails if none is available. Okay, so as whenever this is failed, you need to do something to like manipulate the failed case, right? So on join random failed will do that for you. So this is also override function. So you need to write in this way because this is the Photon specification. And on join random fail, we are simply calling our own function called create room, where we are actually creating a room for our own game. Okay, so this is actually, this particular area is actually creating a room which will be like I am like creating a range for sorry, creating a number from 0 to 9999, and then we are assigning it in a room. Okay, and also you will see that room option, room ops, this is a Photon network, Photon, what will I say, like Photon specific notifications. So these room options are the specifications for the rooms. So is visible is true, yeah. So this needs to be visible to all the players available in that particular lobby. Is open equals to true, yeah. Obviously, if you are creating a game, sorry, creating a room, it needs to be open for available to other people to join. And then maximum players is byte room size. So room size is, you know, you have given this, where it is, you have given this room size to 10. Okay, so it will be converted to byte and then maximum players will be there. Okay, so you are going, you need to use these room options later on, so I will show you how to do that. Okay, so this will actually tell the Photon network, okay, these are the specifications of the room, so I need to maintain this room options. Okay, after that we can create this room, and this is Photon network dot create room, this room. Okay, with these room options, and then we can show that debug statement using this random number, whatever. And if this room creation is failed, you also need to handle that exception. Sometimes it happens like whatever the random number is generated, that particular number is already there. Okay, so in that case the room creation will be failed. So then what you need to do, you can show a message that failed to create, try, and then try again, and again you need to create this room, you need to call this create room function again. Okay, and after that the delay cancel. So if you do not want to join the room or go further, or if there is a connection problem, you can hit the cancel button, and that cancel, whenever you hit the cancel button, these three thing will be there. So the cancel button will be deactivated again, the start button will be activated again, and you will leave the room. Okay, now this is a very simple step for creating a room inside a lobby. But if you want to create your own version, like creating the UI, creating a UI of a room, like you are the master or somebody else is the master and they want to give a name of their room, and you can obviously do that. But here I am just doing it in a hard code fashion, so you can use this one also if you like. Okay, so the room is created using this lobby controller, so we need to go to the room controller. Okay, so we can add to room controller. Okay, So I am just copy and pasting the namespaces over here. So we are using Unity Engine, Photon PUN, and Unity Engine Scene Management. Why we are using Unity Engine Scene Management? Because this is the place where we will actually move on to a new scene. And the scene management namespace will have some functions which will actually do that for us. Okay, so that's why we need the Unity Engine Scene Management. So again, we need to change this mono behavior to mono behavior PUN callbacks, and then I am just copy and pasting the code from my previous code to here. So it is saying waiting room scene index. So we need to give the waiting room scene index to here. So this is basically going to the waiting room. Okay, so right now it is waiting room scene index is 0. Now if you go to your build settings, your waiting room scene is 1. So you need to change this scene to 1, because from menu you need to go to the waiting room. So from menu is 0, menu to waiting room is 1. So waiting room scene index is 1. Good. So yeah, what is happening over here? You have already created a room, but it is created and you don't know whether the other people has already joined in your room or not, whether you are the only person in that room or somebody else is there in that room or not, you don't know. So you need to go to the waiting room to be able to see that, right? So that's why we need to change the scene to the waiting room, and we need to do something else in the waiting room later on. So that's why this script will do that for you. So waiting rooms index is given, and whenever the room controller is enabled, so these are all, you can see all of them are overridden functions. So basically these functions are already defined in the Photon PUN asset. We need to just change it or update it in our own fashion. Okay, so add callback targets. So registered to Photon callback functions and unregistered to Photon callback functions. This is basically the disable function. So you need to use these two functions whenever you are calling something to the Photon server, and then you expect some callbacks from the Photon server. Okay, because in the room, what is happening is like I am there in the room, but is anybody there in the room? I need to know, right? So these are actually, so these callback targets will do that do that information for you. Okay, and after that, on successful joined room, so on joined room, scene manager dot load scene waiting room index. So this particular line will actually load the waiting room scene after successfully joining the room. Okay, so network controller, lobby controller, room controller is done. So basically this part is kind of done. So we can move on to waiting room. Yep, save. So now in the waiting room also, we need to change the camera to the solid color like the previous one, because this is also kind of like a menu option, menu scene. So I can do one thing is save. I can copy and paste these two things over here. Yep. So that it will be less amount of time. It will take less time to generate so many stuff. So menu text. Oh, basically this will be title. This is the waiting room. So I have given the waiting room name. Okay. But now I do not need the start and cancel buttons. So I can delete those things. And for this loading screen, we can say cancel. And I can give the name of this cancel button to cancel. Okay. Oops, sorry. Cancel. Great. Now I also need two things, UI text and Control D to duplicate it. So this text will call player count display, and this text will called count down display. Now, and one more thing, so player count display will be looking like 0 to 4, something like that, and the text value will be 50, and the color will be something like white, and countdown display will be like 0 0. This will be also 50, and this will be white. Great. So what I have done over here, and I need to do something else also. So I have created a UI system for the waiting room. Okay. Now what does happen in waiting room? So whenever you, so suppose you are the host of the game. Okay. Now you, so if you the host of the game, you will be the first person to join in the waiting room because you have created the room and then you went to the waiting room. So what happens in the waiting room is you are waiting for the other players to join, right? So this player count display, for now I have like, this is a demo text, you do not need to worry about. So I have given like a number 4 players, like there are 4 players available all total. The maximum players is 4 players and there are 0 players right now, and this is like a demo text, you do not need to worry about. This is just for making you understand what is happening for this player count display. So whenever you go to the waiting room, you will see that this 0 will be changed to 1. Why? Because you are the only one person right now in the waiting room out of the 4 players. Now, if you have 10 players, say suppose, because previously we have set up the room size as 10, right? So this 4 will be changed to 10 because this is the number of maximum players and this is the number of current players. Okay. So out of 4 people, there is only 1 people. Now, again, if somebody else will join in the waiting room, so this 1 will be changed to 2. Okay. Now, whenever, say, suppose 4 people is joined, then only the game will start, right? Or if now there can be sometimes this can happen, like you have said that there are 10 number of peoples maximum in this room, but only 5 people have joined. Okay, but that does that mean that you need to, like, you cannot start the game until and unless 10 people will join? No, that does not happen. So if there are 5 people, so the game will start with 5 people, right? So that's why we need to implement a counter. So it will give you like 30 seconds maximum. So in between 30 seconds, if all the 10 people will join, then the game will start. If not, then it will count for 30 seconds, and thereafter how many people will be there, maybe 2 people or 4 people, 5 people, whatever number of people are there, using those number of people you can start the game. Okay, so that's why this countdown display. So this is basically a timer which will count for 30 seconds maximum. Now say suppose all the people have joined. You need 10 people and all the 10 people have joined. Do you need to wait for 30 seconds? No, right? It is not good to wait for 30 seconds even if all the people have joined. So you need to write something in your code so that the computer can understand, okay, so all the people have joined, the required number is fulfilled, so I need to start the game immediately. So in that case, what you can do is one possible way, which I will show you in this tutorial, that you can cut down the 30 seconds timer to 5 seconds timer, and then after 5 4 3 2 1 the game will start. Okay, great. So this is the overall basic idea which I need to tell you, and I will implement it in this tutorial. So I have built the canvas, but I have not tell you what the cancel button will do because I need to implement some method and I need to assign it in the on click event. So I will show you. So So this is the waiting room, and I need to create an empty game object which will actually control the waiting room. So I will create the waiting room controller game object. Okay. Basically, I do not need this underscores. Oops. Okay. And then I need to assign a script on it to be able to make it run. Great. Okay. So I can go to the waiting room controller, and I will copy it because this is a little bit bigger script. So these are the natural namespaces which we are like continuously using. You see that. Only one thing you can see that we are using Unity Engine.ui. Okay, because why you are using UI, we need to change the player countdown display and countdown display text file. So if you want to change the text file of the the text property of a text game object, so you need to call this Unity Engine.ui namespace. That is the main thing. Okay, so I will again copy and paste yeah, this part and command V. Yeah, this is a little bit bigger script, and I need to change it again to mono behavior on callbacks. Good. Is everything okay? Yep. Okay. So what is happening over here is, so I need a photon view for the first time. What is photon view? So whenever you are using like a network game object using photon, and from thereafter you are actually saying, so from here basically you are communicating with other people. You need to know the status of other people. You do not need to only know your current status, but you also need to know the status of the other people, like whether they have joined in the waiting room or not. So whenever you need to use this type of status of other people, what you need to do is you need to add photon view. Okay, so this photon view will do that for you. Okay, so whenever you attach a photon view with some game object, it will be automatically synced over the internet, and you can understand that what is the, so you can understand lots of stuff like what is the position, rotation. Obviously position and rotation, there is other script available to actually get the position and rotation value, but this is so that will use the photon view as the main component, or the, you can say, the parent component. Okay, so you need to attach the photon view. So at first this waiting room controller needs its own photon view, and also the multiplayer scene index, menu scene index. So I will show you what is happening over here. Just let it load. Okay, so multiplayer scene index, it requires a multiplayer scene index because it needs to know whenever everybody will connect or everybody will come to the waiting room, what happens next, right? So this is basically the game window, build settings. So up from waiting room, if everything happens successfully in the waiting room, what will happen next? We need to go to the game scene, right? So the game scene has the index 2. So we need to give 2 over here. Then menu scene index, if something wrong happens, so if you need to click the cancel button, so what you need to do, you need to go back to the main window, right? So we need to give 0 as the option because menu scene is the 0 window, sorry, 0 index, right? Minimum players to start. this is a multiplayer window, so minimum players will be 2, right? You cannot play with you in the at the same time. So minimum players to start will be 2. Room count display. Room count display will be, and this is a text property. So player count display. Timer to start display, countdown display. Come on. Okay. Maximum wait time will be 30 seconds. Maximum full game wait time will be 5 seconds. What I actually told you earlier. So maximum wait time, if there are 10 people available in your room and you have like 4 people available, so you can wait for 30 seconds and then the game will start. So, and similarly, if there are 10 people available and you already have 10 people joined in the waiting room, so maximum there will be 5 seconds, and thereafter you can start the game. Okay. So basically these are all those properties which I need to define over here. Okay, and in the start method, we are actually taking these values given by the user over here, and then it is calling player count update. So in the player count update, we are actually updating the room count display. That means this one. Okay, I told you that this is a demo text and it is nothing to do about later on. So you can change the maximum amount of player using this room size. Okay, and 0 can be changed by player count. Okay, and whenever it is greater than equals to minimum players to start, the countdown, the timer will be started. This is true, and you can easily see that. Okay, now whenever on player entered, so whenever the player will be entered in a room, so this player count update will be started, and this update will be started for every player. Okay, basically if this is happening for the host person, because the host person will be the first person to call the waiting room. So that's why in the start window I have defined the player count update, and whenever the other player will join the room, so for them this player count update will be called. Okay, now one of the most important thing is we are going to discuss right now, this is the RPC functions. Okay, so if photon network.is master client, then photon view.rpc send timer to this. What is happening over here? So as you are the master, so suppose you have created the room, you acting as a master, and the other people will be, whenever they will join, they will be acting as the client. Okay, so you need to start the counter, because I have joined. Out of 10 people I have joined, so I need to start the counter uh, for starting the game. Now to do that, we need to do the RPC functions. We need to call the RPC functions, the remote procedure calls, right? Yes, this RPC target. Okay, yeah, remote procedure calls. You can go through this like tutorial and you can understand what does this do, but I can show you in very easy way. Suppose you are the master client, okay, and you have 2 friends joined in your game. So you want to send some data, say like you are saying hi. How can you send that? So you need to send this thing to this person, and you also need to send this thing to this person, right? So this RPC function will do that for you. So whenever you want to say hi, you can call this RPC function. Inside this RPC function, you need to give this function name called hi, whatever you want to pass. So this RPC function will take this name and then send it to the other person. So this is client 1, this is client 2. So RPC 1 and RPC 2. Okay. Now say suppose this client also need to say hi to the master client. Okay. Or maybe like a good example is say this client one is wanting to change the color of its body. So maybe it was in red, it needs to change it blue. So as this is a multiplayer game, so this client also need to know that this client one has changed its color from red to blue, right? So this client one also need to send a RPC call, maybe called R2B, to the master client. Okay, and then this master client is responsible to send this data to all the other clients. Okay, so whenever the other clients will get this data, okay, this RPC R2B is called, that means this C2 will know that this C1 has changed its color from red to blue. And not only C2, if there is C3, C4 and whatever, all of them will get this updation value of C1 because of this RPC call, from the master server or master client. So this is basically the main idea of what the RPC calls are. Okay, great. So the master client, so if Photon network is master client, if I am the master client, so I will call this RPC function, which names is RPC send timer. Okay, now RPC has one particular argument, and you can add some arguments later on. Okay, so again I need to show you something. So by default, so RPC function is like photon view dot RPC. This is the basic structure, and inside this you need to write something. So the first argument will be the name of your function. The second argument will be how you are going to update the RPC call, how you are wanting to update the other targets. So basically this is the targets, and after that, if you have some, say, name is your function, and if you have some argument, some parameters inside this function, you need to actually pass those uh, parameters over here. Say suppose there is 1, there is 2, so you can say v1 and v2. Okay, so how many parameters will be there inside this function? You need to pass this parameter over here. But by default, if you do not have any parameters, you can close the bracket over here. If you have any parameters, you can like add those parameters over here. Now I need to talk something about this target. So if you go back to this page, here is RPC target, and you can understand all others, master client, all buffer. You can see this, what are these things. So we are going to use others. Why? Because sends the RPC to everyone else. This client does not execute the RPC. Player who join later will not execute this RPC. Great. So that means what is happening is, oh, I need to change share. Okay, so you can see that Photon network is master client, is my photon view.rpc, RPC send timer, RPC target.others, timer to start game. So you can say that RPC send timer is the actual function name, and RPC target.others, we are using RPC target.others. So we are using RPC target.others. That means this particular client will not execute the RPC function, but it will actually send this RPC function to other clients so that they will execute this in their own computers. Okay, and this function has a argument, and I need to pass that argument over here. Okay, and whenever you are using RPC functions, and this is the name of the RPC function, so whenever you are using, defining the RPC function, you need to write this piece of code, PUN RPC, within a bracket. third bracket. Okay, otherwise Photon cannot understand that this is a RPC function. Okay, so inside this RPC function, what we are doing, so we are actually sending the timers, or basically syncing the timers throughout the network. Okay, and I am not describing so much over here because you can easily go through that thing. So if somebody left the room, so again the player count update will be called, and then in each frame we need to call the waiting for more players because we want to wait for more players. And then whenever the player count is less than equals to 1, we need to reset the timer. Basically we do not want to start the timer if it is 1 or 0 number of players. We need to start the timer only if there are a minimum number of players, and whenever it is ready to start, like we stop the game and stop the timer and we'll start the game. Okay, so this is thing. And Photon network dot load level multiplayer sync index. And oh, by the way, so we need to attach the delay cancel function. So we need to go to the cancel button and then waiting room controller, delay cancel, sorry, Photon view, delay cancel, delay cancel. Good. So everything is done. Okay, great. So now waiting room is done. So everybody is joined in your room. Great. So now we need to go to the game window to build our own game. Okay. So go back to game window, and now, so we are going to use the skybox, and I will tell you one thing, that whenever you are using the skybox window or skybox camera, one thing you always try to do is go to rendering lighting settings, and you turn off this auto generate lighting and then generate lighting. Okay, because sometimes it happens like you are using your own computer, and in your case the lighting looks good, but whenever you just you just imported your file to another computer, the lighting may not seem low. Okay, the lighting may seem like dimming. Okay, so in that case you need to preserve the lighting. So that's why what you need to do, go to window, go to rendering lighting settings, and then turn off this auto generate and then generate lighting. Okay, so this will create a game folder where the lighting data will be stored. Okay, good. So this is the actual game. So over here I need to build that. So I can create a plane of size like 4, 4, 4. Okay, and there are walls. So the front, I can create a cube which will be called front wall. Command D, D, D. Front wall, back wall. Then left wall and right wall. So these are only cubes now, so I need to change their size and all those stuff, right? So 0.5 and 20, then 40, 0.05. Oh, by the way, so I have already done this thing, so I know what is the exact values. Basically, I am watching those things and then I am creating those. 0.5 minus 20, 41 and 0.05. Then left wall is 20, 0.5, 0.05, 40. Right wall is minus 20. Oops, sorry, minus 20, 0 0.5, 0 0.05, 40. Okay, great. And as all of them are walls, so I can create an empty game object and then name it as a wall, and then put this as a child game objects of these walls. Okay, basically I need to say it walls. Yes. So how does it look like? Okay. Oh, why? Walls. What wall is this? Left wall. Oh, sorry. 0 0.5. Great. So we have actually created the the playground of our game, of our soccer game, or whatever you want to say. Okay, great. So here also we need to create an empty game object for controlling the game overall. So I can set name is a game setup controller. Okay, and this should be reset. Now as this is a soccer game or something like that, so I need a ball, right? So we can create a sphere, and I can say it as ball. Great. So and now, so this ball will be looking like white. I do not want that. I can change the color. So I can create a folder over here which is called materials, and inside that material I can create a material. Where is material? Here. And I can say that it is called wall material, and for the color I can choose as blue or something like that. Great. And I can put this material on this ball. Now see, this ball is like kind of under the ground. I do not need that, right? So I need to push it a little bit upwards. So right now, if I push it a little bit upwards, it is on the ground. Great. So now, so this ball has a collider on it, and as this will be a soccer game, so then naturally there will be a rigid body contact. So the player will also have a rigid body. This ball should have a rigid body, otherwise there will be no physical contact between these two bodies. So I need to attach a rigid body, right? Okay. And I need to change the mass, because if it is 1, the players are also 1, and this is 1, the player actually cannot move the ball. So I need to change the mass, say suppose like 0 0.05, okay, to make it little bit easy for the players. Okay, now, so the ball is ready, but it is actually not ready for multiplayer. Why? Because you did not attach the photon view with it. You always remember that whenever you want to like sync an object through the network, you always need to attach the photon view. Okay, so I need to attach the photon view. Photon view. Great. The photon view is there. Now, what you actually need to sync, you need to sync the transform and the okay, first of all, photon view transform. Photon transform. Yeah, transform view. Okay, so by default you can see that position and rotation is already synced. So you do not need to use. So if you want, you can like okay, by default you can use rotation also. We can sync the rotation also. Great. Now, as this is a rigid body, we also need to attach the photon view, photon rigid body view, because otherwise the rigid body, so always try to remember that rigid body synchronization is very much uh, very much data consuming for the network game. So this photon rigid body view will do the stuff for you, like whatever particular data is actually required for transforming the data to the other computer. So you do not need to worry about anything. So that's why like synchronize velocity and synchronize and angular velocity, you can like synchronize these things. Okay, so whenever you are using rigid body, you need to actually uh, use this photon rigid body view for synchronizing your data for that particular game object. Otherwise, always you try to use this photon view and photon transform view for like synchronizing your position and rotation values over the internet. Okay, so the ball is there. You have got the ball. Now you actually need to create these as a photon prefabs, and photon need whenever you are wanting to use the prefab for photon purpose, you actually need to create a folder called resources, because otherwise photon cannot detect your photon prefabs, and inside the resources you need to create another folder called photon prefabs in the same way. Okay, now in the photon prefabs you can create this as a photon prefab or as a ball prefab. Okay, so I need to change one thing over here, but for now it is okay. The ball is there. Okay, and so the ball is there. Now I need to create the players. Okay, so how can you create the player? I can create a cube for any representation. Okay, I can say that it is a photon player. Okay, and over here also I can create a material called player material. Great, and I can give a color to red, and then photon player. See, the photon player is also at the same place. Okay, but we do not need to worry about it now because we need to change it through code. For now I can like place it upwards a little bit. Okay, and also I need to attach the photon transform view with it, because I need to sync the photon player positions and rotation values throughout the network. So obviously I need to do that, and I do not need to change the rotation. Now also rigid body view, great, and I need to change. Okay, now in the rigid body view, I do not want to see, I do not want this rigid body to be rotated around X axis and Z axis. Okay, because whenever a player is running on the ground, they cannot move on their X axis, which is like this axis, and Z axis. They can only move around their Y axis, right? Okay, so that's why I am just freezing the rotation on x-axis and z-axis. I am just allowing the players to rotate around y-axis. Great. Okay, and I think everything is okay. Photon view is there, right? Oh sorry, photon view. See, photon view. Yeah, photon view is there. I think everything is okay now. Okay, so now I need to change it as a prefab. Great. Yep. Photon player. And I also need to create another game object, which is the bullet, which I have shown, the yellow color bullet. So that is, I can say as bullet. Okay. Player sphere. Okay, so over here I need to attach the photon view. Okay, then add component photon transform view. Great. And I do not need the rotation over here. Great. Okay. Yeah. And for now, I do not want it to be a rigid body. You can change it a rigid body if you want later on. For this tutorial, I do not need it as a rigid body. I am just showing you how to use the bullet, how to fire a bullet from you. Okay. So that's why I do not use a rigid body over here. So I can make it as a prefab over here again. Okay, there are something to do with this bullet photon and ball also, but I will do that thing little bit later. Okay, so for now, I need to go to the photon player and yeah, photon player. And then I need to attach a script because you have photon player, you have the ball, you have the bullet, but you need to interact with each other, right? For that, I need to create a new script called photon player manager. Okay, now before going to that, I need to set up the game. So I need to create a new script for game setup manager. Come on. Okay, so in the game setup manager, I will just copy and paste this thing and I will tell you what is happening over here. Okay, so in this case, what is happening is you can see like the player is instantiated at the 000 position, but this the ball is also a rigid body and the player is also a rigid body, right? So whenever a rigid body is instantiated at the same place, it will create problem. So you may see like some player has flied like is flying on the sky, or some player is like falling down from the ground, or some player is like after instantiating they just something happened like explosion happened and some player like flying away. So to get rid of this problem, this script is actually telling you like choose a random place, random value generator file will create select a range from 5 to 10 and then select any value between these values and then instantiate this player in that particular field. Basically this is instantiating the player in particular area around this region. Okay, now this instantiation is created by photon network instantiate. This is a little bit different than the actual instantiate method defined by Unity. So basically if you use instantiate method of Unity, so you are actually instantiating a game object in your local machine, but you are actually not syncing the data to the throughout the whole network. But if you use the photon network dot instantiate, then it is not only instantiating this player prefab on your local machine, but it is actually syncing that data throughout the network so that people can understand, okay, so this player is instantiated, say suppose at this place, and we can see that. So how can you write the instantiate data? So path.combine Photon prefab. So Photon prefabs, you have mentioned these resources, Photon prefabs, and the Photon player prefab. This is the Photon player prefab. And at the place where you are wanting to instantiate it, so you can get this data from here and with a certain amount of rotation matrix. Great. By the way, I have not implemented the camera, which is bad. So Photon player, main camera. Yep. And the main camera will be at a rotation of 20 degrees and it will be at -7, right? Or this is at 6. Great. And again, you can change it to apply all. Okay. Now, one thing you may ask me that I have used this Photon player and then I have given the camera inside this Photon player. And what happens if like a player dies by getting hit by a bullet? So in this case, yeah, obviously, so you need to destroy this Photon player, and if it is destroyed, then the whole player will be like kicked out from the game. But in normal cases, that does not happen, right? So whenever you have died, so what happens is like your animation will be like you are falling on the ground, but you are not actually kicked out from the game. Okay. In this particular tutorial, I am not going to show that particular case, but if you search online like how can you do that thing, it is easy. So you can create a empty game object like this, and then inside this game object you can put the graphics and the main camera. So whenever or you can create another version of the empty game object which you can destroy, but the animation and the camera will be remain as the same. Okay, this is the easiest way you can do that thing. But for now, I can for this particular tutorial, I am just whenever this is destroyed, I am just putting you like kicking you out from the game immediately. Which is a very bad idea, because if you are a host and if you get killed, all of the people will like kicked out, right? If you are a client, that is not a problem, but if you are a host, then obviously that is a problem. If you die, if you die, the whole game will be stopped. Okay, but for this tutorial, I'm going to show this thing to you. Okay, but do not try to make this thing in your own projects. Great. So the game setup manager is already done. So I need to create the Photon player manager. Great. So over here also, I am just going to put the values and put the namespaces and copy and paste the code. Okay, great. Do not need to worry about ball controller right now, because that is another script which is attached to the ball. Okay, so, oh, by the way, I need to use this game setup controller, game object player. What has happened? Oh, oh, okay, great. So I need to go to the Photon player. Oh, it is saying the ball controller. It requires the ball controller. Okay, so I need to create a ball controller script for the ball controller. Okay, now it is done. So come on back. Oh man, so many problems I need to fix. Okay, ball controller. So I need to go to the ball controller and copy and paste all those code first of all. Control V, Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V. Okay, and another thing is there, that is a player sphere controller. I hope now it is working, right? Yep. Okay. So before going to the ball controller, I need to say something about the Photon player manager, what is it doing. So go to the Photon player, and then you can see like I have defined some public game objects and private game objects. So basically what is happening over here, so if you go to the Photon player manager and then your player sphere, okay, so player sphere, ball prefab and camera. So the ball prefab, you can understand that you need to give the ball prefab over here. The camera means the Photon player has a camera and you need to give the camera over here. And the player sphere, that means the bullet. Oh, sorry. Photon player, and you need to give the bullet. Great. So these three things are required because these three things will be managed by the Photon player. Okay, so these three things are required, and these three things are defined over here. It also told you that there is a ball is attached equals to false. So this Boolean value is required, or you may need this type of Boolean values, or somehow you actually need to send some data, like what I told you earlier, like say suppose I want to change my color, how can I like send the data to other people. So in this case I have used this Boolean value. So I have this Boolean value that the ball is attached to me. So it is true or false. If it is true, I will send this data to the other people. If it is false, I will send this data to other people. Similarly, I will get the data from other people, this Boolean value data from other people also. Okay, so that's why this Boolean value is required. And I have taken the ball controller, which is attached with the ball, and the Photon view of this current Photon player. Great. So in the start method, I have implied this Photon view in the PV. And if the PV is mine, so if this is a local player, so then the camera is set active. Otherwise, if it is remote player, we cannot actually set the camera active to other players, right? So that's why this PV is mine, is like, this is my local player, so I need to activate the camera. Great. Okay, and then we are getting the ball, the game object dot find ball, and the ball is like, take the ball controller and as attached with this game object. Now, so in the update function, if the Photon view is local, is mine, then if you press the DWAS or WASD, basically, you can actually control the control the player with WAS decrease. W means forward, A means backward. Sorry, W means forward, A means left, S means back, and D means right. Okay. Now, if you hit the I button, basically it will create the bullet. So that's why again you can see that photon dot instantiate the player's sphere. Basically it will be like bullet in our case, right? Because this is called bullet. And so where it will be instantiated, this will be instantiated at the position of the player along with the player sphere transform position. So the bullet will be, oh sorry, the bullet is reset and it has a 0.5, right? Yeah, 0.5. Yeah. So the player sphere transformed dot position, and it has also a rotation matrix of identity matrix. Okay. Now, if you hit P, what I showed you at the first time, that if you hit P, so you are taking the ownership of the ball. It is actually attaching to with you, and whenever you move, the ball will be moving with you. Okay, and so this will be like request ownership. And if you want to transfer ownership, so this particular script will be doing that thing for you. And if the ball is attached equals to true, then the ball transform dot position, like what I said, that ball will be like moving with you, with the player. Okay. And you can see like this is also a RPC call, because whenever ball is like, whenever the ball is getting attached with you, if you have requested the ball, and the ball has transferred its ownership to you, then the ball will be attached to you, and whenever you move the ball, move you on either side, the ball will be moving with you. But at the same time, the other people also needs to see that the ball is attached with you, and wherever you are moving, the ball is moving with you. So it needs to be synced, right? So that's why this RPC function is called whenever you are actually requesting the ownership and whenever it is transferred. Okay. So basically this function is doing that. You can go through it. If you have some problems, you can ask me, but like overall, this is a very simple function. So the ball is attached. If the ball is attached equals to false, and the ball is attached. So here one thing I need to tell you, like I need to share my screen again to my iPhone, sorry, iPad. Okay. So here is the ball and here is the player. Okay. So the player has ball is attached, and this ball has also a ball is attached variable. These all, both of them are Boolean. Okay. So by default, these are false because the ball is not attached with any of the player whenever whenever the game is started. Now suppose this player 1 and player 2. Suppose this player 1 wants the ownership of this ball. Okay, so what will you do? You will call the ball that I need the ownership. So if the ball is and so how can you check that? So I have the ball is attached equals to false, and I need to check whether the ball is attached is equal to false for the ball also. If both of them are false, then I can request the ownership, and obviously the ball will say, okay, I am free, so you can take me. Okay, but by the way, so you can take me, and then it will change the variable to true, and it will change the variable to true. Now whenever the player 2 will request the ownership to the ball, it has the ball is attached equals to false, but in this case the ball is attached equals to true. So this is true. That means it is already attached to someone, so it cannot request the ownership. Okay, so whenever this player will release the ownership, then it will again change to false, and then again the ball will change to false. Whenever this will change to false and this is already false, then only the player 2 will be able to request the ownership and the ball will be changing the value. The ball will be attached to the player 2. Okay, so this is the basic idea of what is going on. So I need to share the screen again. Share. Okay, so this is basically happening in this case. So the ball is attached for the player and the ball is attached for the ball. Both of them are false. Then the transfer ownership will happen. Okay, and this both of them are true. This will be changed to true. But whenever both of them are true, nothing will be going to happen. Sorry, when both of them are true, then the transfer ownership will be taking place from, like, the ball is attached of the player will be false and the ball is attached of the ball will be false also. Okay, basically this is happening over here. Now Control S. Now go back to the ball controller. So the ball controller is like the same thing. The ball is attached over here. You can see that thing, and you need to attach the callback targets like the waiting room controller, how I showed you earlier. You need to add the callback targets, and basically this one is very important for the ball, like how the ball will know that which target, which player is actually calling the which a player is actually calling the ball to be attached with it, right? So the photon view ID is the PV view ID by which the ball will know that, okay, this particular player with this ID is calling me. Okay, so the requesting player, you can know the requesting player by doing this. Okay, so this is on ownership request and on ownership transfer. So where is it? Where it is? Yeah, so this ball photon view ID. So how can you transfer ownership? The transfer ownership you can transfer the ownership to this photon view ID of the requesting player. Okay, so this is basically the idea. So most of the things are done, only one thing is left, that is the bullet. Okay, so the bullet will be, you can say, like player, the bullet controller or whatever. Where it is? Okay. By the way, have I changed the color of the bullet? I don't think so. Right? Yeah. Material. Bullet. And you can change it to say something like that. Bullet controller. Yep. Overrides. Apply all. Photon. Apply all. Ball. Great. So bullet controller. Oh, bullet controller. Okay. I'll do this again. Control V. Oops, sorry. Control C. And Control V. Okay, save it. Okay. Is it done, right? Player controller, photo player controller, photon player controller, Photon player controller mono we have PUN. Sorry, we have not seen this thing. Wall controller, wall controller, yes. Bullet controller, yes. Okay. So I actually forgot to change the PUN because you actually need to change it, the PUN callbacks and all those stuff. So because this thing, you need to change the PUN. Okay. So in this case, this is a very small script which is actually taking the photon view from the bullet, and it is actually checking in the update function that whether this photon view is the local photon view or it is the remote photon view of other players. If it is other players, then it will not do anything. But if it is the current photon view, that means if you hit the I button of your player, so that means you are the local player, you are doing something. So that's why it's like it is checking that, okay, this is my local player and I need to run this code. So what is this saying? That if you hit the get mouse button down 0, that means the left click. If you hit the left click and this is the local player, the photon view is a local player, then you can actually move the uh, bullet forward. Okay, so by hitting the left click, you are moving the bullet forward. So this is basically happening over here. So all of the scripts are working almost properly. Only one thing left over here, that is the ball. Go to the ball, and over here you can turn off the rotation and angular velocity because we do not need that. And one thing, yeah, ownership transfer. Here 3 options are there: fixed, takeover, request. You can see online that what are the things, what are the main differences between it, but I can tell you in a very short way. That is, whenever this is fixed, that means you cannot transfer your ownership. Okay, which is okay for the player, because whenever you are a player, your ownership cannot be transferred to another player, because otherwise your identity will be lost, right? So whenever you are player, so that means whenever you are a player, you will be fixed. Okay, or for the bullets also, maybe in some cases the bullets will be fixed transparency, but the ball is transferring itself from one person to another. Okay, so that's why there are 2 options: takeover and request. Now takeover is like the ball. Okay, so whenever say suppose like whenever you are playing the soccer game, so you can put it in as a takeover. What it is happening, like it will not ask the ball that whether you are free or not. Okay, so it seems like I need you, you can come to me. Okay, and if somebody else will need the ball, it can go to the other person, like this. So whenever you are playing the soccer ball, say suppose 2 opponents are coming to each other, and any one of them can take the ball, right? And immediately after 1 second or 2 seconds, the other opponent can take the ball. In those situations, you need to use this takeover ownership. And lastly, the request ownership, which we are actually going to use because of this thing, the transfer ownership method and request ownership method, which is actually like, say suppose you are wanting to capture a fortress. Okay, and you want to put your flag on the fortress. Now until you are alive, you have the flag with you, right? You will not allow another person to take over the flag from you. Whenever you will die, then only the other people will take the flag from you. So this is like the request ownership. So that means I am requesting the ownership from the ball. If it is free, it will allow me to give its ownership. If it is not, it will not allow me to transfer its ownership. Okay, so basically this is happening over here. So this is the whole tutorial, and I will delete these 2-3 things. Okay, because these are there, and I will leave the ball over here because the ball is kind of working as a server game object, because nobody is taking the ownership of the ball at the first time, so you can like put it over here. And I hope everything is working properly. So I need to go back to the menu scene because that is the first scene, and I can build it. Right, Mac OS X. Yeah, build. So I can create a new folder called app, save Photon tutorial, save. Okay guys, so I got a problem. I got 3 problems basically. What was happening is like I created a wrong Photon player, and that's why it was creating a problem. I was getting some error, so I am just dragging the Photon player. So I created a player graphics. So basically previously I created a cube directly and then applied all this photon transform view, rigid body, all those stuff on the cube. So right now I am just separating the cube inside this game object, and basically this photon player is actually acting as a empty game object. So I have attached the photon view, the transform view, rigid body, and rigid body view with this player, and the photon player manager also with this empty game object. But try to remember that this, if you want to delete or destroy this photon player, it automatically destroyed the whole game object, because this is a primary game object, and all those graphics and camera is like a child game object, right? So in future in your game, or if you want to make a complex game, obviously you do not need to use that. For like make it simple, I have done this thing. Okay, so I have changed this thing, and I also changed the position to 000 so that it can be generated in this particular place. So after doing that, I like dragged it down over here to make it as a prefab. So I have changed this thing. And also for the bullet, I found that the position of the bullet was wrong. It was like 25 meters away or something like that. So that's why whenever I hit the I button, I could not see. So I came back and see that the position was like wrong. So that's why I changed the position in the prefab. So 0.50. So I did that. These 2 things, and the last thing is I told you at the beginning of the tutorial that I need to change something in the Photon server settings. So I need to do that thing right now. So whenever I click on the Photon server settings, if you click on the server and cloud settings, there is an option called fixed region. Okay, so sometimes it may happen, it may not happen for every people, but sometimes it may happen that suppose you are in USA and your friend is in China or somewhere else. So in that case, what happens for them, like you want to join to the server which is located in US, but your friend may join to another server which is located in China. So in that case, in Chinese server, your game representation may not be there. Okay, so for an infinite time they will be in the waiting room and they will not be able to join the room because there is no representation for your game. So I actually got that problem. Even if I stay in USA, sometimes like somehow my game was not connecting to the server properly. So that's why you need to fix the region. So you can use the US region, and hopefully you will be able to join to your games properly. So basically these 3 things I wanted to show you. I needed to fix these 3 things and I need to show you. And thereafter, these are the 3 things. So I can go back to menu and then I build it. So I have already built the new version, so I do not want to build it again. So what I do is like I want to show you how it is look like. So I have hit the play button. hit the play button over here also. Okay, so both of them are connected to the internet. So I start. It has going to waiting room, and you can see like there is only one player right now, because I have not hit the start button over here yet. So that's why the timer has not started counting. But now if I hit the start button in the client, automatically see there is two players. There are two players and the timer has started counting. Also, there are 10 players maximum and there is like two people right now. So the timer will start counting up to 30 seconds. But if 10 out of 10 players will be there, so automatically the timer will shrink down to 5 seconds and immediately it will start the game. Okay, great. So both of the games have started and you can see in the scene window that there are two players and the two players are randomly generated at two different places and the ball is also there. So if I hit this window, so I can manipulate this player. If I hit this window, I can manipulate this player. Okay, now if I hit the I button, I have created the bullet for this player. And see, if I click the left click, I can move the bullet. Similarly for this window, if I hit the I button, I have instantiated the bullet for this player and I can click left click and it will move. Now if I want to play with this ball, so see, because of this rigid body thing, I can play with this ball easily. Yeah, see, I can play with this ball. Now if I want to take the ownership of this ball, I can hit P. So see, I have taken the ownership of this ball. But for this case, if I hit P again, I cannot take the ownership. So see, it is requesting ownership, but it is not able to get the ownership because this player has already got this ownership. Now, if I want to release the ownership of this ball, what I will do is I will hit the P button again. So I will release the ball. And in this case, now if I hit the P button, so see, the ball is under this player's control. If I hit the P button again, I have released the ball. So this is the overall idea of this whole tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Yeah, it is quite a little bit longer than expected because there are a lot to say in this tutorial. But I think you have got some basic ideas about how to use Photon in your project. And if you have questions, just ask us. We will be happy to help you. Thank you. Bye.